Eric approached the intersection just as the traffic light shifted from yellow to red. He eased his foot onto the brake, the car slowing to a smooth stop. For a moment, everything was calm. Then the silence shattered. Blue and red lights exploded behind him, followed by the sharp, rising wail of a police siren. Eric's eyes flicked to the rear-view mirror, brows knitting in faint confusion. He hadn't been speeding. He hadn't broken any rules. At least, not intentionally. He pulled over to the shoulder, rolled down his window, and waited as the police cruiser parked behind him. Out stepped Officer Bradley Larson, mid-30s, buzz cut, heavy boots, and a badge that gleamed as if it were polished twice that morning. He walked toward Eric's car with the swagger of someone used to giving orders and having them followed. License and registration, Larson said sharply, not even bothering with a greeting. Eric nodded calmly. He opened the glove compartment, retrieved his documents, and handed them over. His movements were controlled, steady, but even as he complied, he could feel the officer's eyes on him, studying him a little too closely. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Larson asked, leaning in as if trying to catch the faintest hint of guilt. "I'm not entirely sure," Eric replied, polite yet firm. "You didn't come to a full stop at the light," Larson said, but his tone faltered just slightly. Even he didn't seem certain. Eric frowned. "I slowed down before the red, officer. If I misjudged it, I understand." Larson didn't respond. Instead, he stared at Eric, as if trying to decide what box to put him in. The stop was no longer about a light. Something else was happening behind those narrowed eyes. "You're not from around here," Larson said, glancing at the license. "I moved here a few months ago," Eric answered. "The address is on the card." But it didn't matter. Larson was no longer listening. His questions sharpened, gaining an edge that didn't match a simple traffic violation. "Where were you headed in such a hurry?" "Just going home." The air felt heavier, tenser. Eric could sense Larson searching. No, hoping for a reason to escalate. But Eric didn't flinch. Larson stepped back and slowly folded Eric's documents. He took his time, too much time, before slipping them into his chest pocket. When he looked up again, his expression carried something smug, something predecided. "Step out of the car." Eric tightened his grip on the steering wheel for half a second, but his face remained calm. "Is there a specific reason for that?" he asked evenly. Larson's lips twitched. "I asked you to step out. You don't want to make this harder than it has to be." It wasn't a request. It was a threat dressed as authority. Eric exhaled and opened the door. He emerged slowly, standing tall, taller than the officer by nearly an inch. His tailored suit, his polished shoes, his composed posture, none of it matched whatever Larson had decided about him. Yet the judgment was already made. "Hands where I can see them," Larson said. Eric complied. "Is there something specific you're looking for?" he asked. Larson smirked. "Routine. We've had some incidents around here. Can't be too careful." Eric turned his head and locked eyes with him. Incidents involving men in business suits? Driving mid-range sedans? Or does this have more to do with something else? The question hit harder than a shove. Larson stiffened. His hand drifted toward his belt, not to draw a weapon, but out of instinct, out of discomfort, out of being called out, without being openly challenged. For the first time, the officer's confidence cracked. And in that crack, the real story began. Because Eric wasn't just calm. He wasn't just controlled. He was prepared. And Officer Larson had no idea who he had just pulled over, or how deeply he would regret it.